If you like to make your NFL games a little bit more interesting, you've come to the right place. It's the Even Money Podcast with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik.
Yeah, Vegas, baby, Vegas. It is the Even Money Betting Podcast, and we love being twice a week now because we get to talk about the line moves over the last couple days. We get to talk to Dr. Chao and get very, very up-to-the-minute, relevant injury information that we can act on immediately, which is why, by the way, it's so critical, whether it's youtube.com/RossTuckerNFL or any of the podcast apps. Not only do you subscribe, turn the notifications on so as soon as this is posted, you can listen or watch and act. You also are missing out if you're not getting the grades spreadsheet. Patreon.com/RTmedia. As a lot of you guys know, on Tuesdays, we recap how we did the weekend before, and then we dive into all of our bets against the spread, the totals, as well as our teaser bets. On Thursdays, we talk about the line movement that's happened so far in the week. We get the injury information with Dr. Chao. We review how the prop bets and parlays did the week before, and then Steve typically has some props and parlays this week. Before we get to the line move, Steve, we actually have two things we need to discuss. I wasn't exactly understanding last week how on Grades' spreadsheet, and I reached out to him with an email, but I think our Australian sensation right now is at a work conference. But you and I both were 6 for 6 on our 2-unit teaser legs. So that puts us at up 12 units right there. Then on my other bets, ATS and totals, I had 5 units worth of winners. Bengals +2, 2 units against the Steelers. The under 2 units for Jags Rams. And then the Giants getting the 7 points for 1 unit. And I had 4 units of losses. So, correct me if I'm wrong here, Steve, but I'm up 5 units on the winners. I know we're grading these bets, the non-teasers, at -110. So I should have 4.4 for the losers. So my ATS and total bets should be up 0.6. You combine them with our teaser bets, I should have really been up. I said 10.1 on Tuesday. I was really up 12.6, right?
Yeah, and we'll just double check with grades, and this happens all the time when you have a high volume week. So we'll clean it all up and get the right numbers and get back to everybody when we go to the show early next week. But 100%.
Yeah, we will let you know exactly where we're at. But listen, we don't want to be shorting ourselves. We'll let you know exactly where I'm at and where Steve's at, because Steve, you would have had just 1 unit of losers down, so you would be down 1.3. So for the week, based on my math, you should have been up 10.7 units. So we will get that corrected. By the way, that's before the props, which we will get to in a little bit. But by my math, I think something was off on grade spreadsheet. It all automatically calculates. So we'll get to that with grades next week. We'll get to some injury information shortly. But let's talk about some of the line moves. Oh, there's one other thing we need to talk about. We forgot to talk last week on Tuesday, Steve, about the Texans and the Niners. I don't know if the line wasn't up because Monday Night Football with the Texans had just switched or had just ended, or if potentially I just missed it. But the Niners, we can still get a bet in on this game because we missed it on Tuesday. The Niners are getting 1.5 in Houston. The total's 41.5.
Yeah, and I'm going to lean to Houston. They bet Houston up from -1 to -1.5. Nico Collins probably not going to play for Houston. I'll do a strong lean to Schultz to go over when his number is posted for his reception yards. But I think the Niners, horribly injured. have had game after game where they've circled the wagons and played really hard. I think it catches up to them here, but I just don't trust Houston's offense. So just a strong lean to Houston.
Well, and I'm going to add, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I'm going to add San Francisco to my teaser legs for the week. These are 2-unit teaser legs. I have Buffalo down to -1.5, Philadelphia at -1, New England at -1, Atlanta at -1. I'm going to add one more, San Francisco up to 7.5. What do you think, Steve?
I'm going to wait because I think I'm going to get San Fran +2, and I want the very best of the numbers. So for now, I'm no official play on this podcast for me on Niner teasers. And I do like the Houston side, so that's why I'll stay off for now.
Okay, so grades, by the way, make sure you add that a 2-unit teaser leg. So I now have 5 teaser legs, all of which are 2-unit plays. I'm going big on teasers again, won 12 units last week. In terms of line moves, by the way, Steve, there's a big one in my game tonight. Those of you can see I'm in a hotel room that are watching on YouTube, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I've got the Vikings and the Chargers for Westwood One national radio tonight with Kevin Kugler. The line has gone up in favor of the Chargers. The Chargers are now laying 3.5. I think it went up a full point maybe. Total's 44.5. The Vikings are getting the 3.5. Why do you think there was such a big line move?
You know, the Chargers have been just decimated on the O-line, so it's not like they're healthy now. I agree. The Chargers are better than the Vikings, obviously. So I could see the support at -2.5. Got to be honest. Now that it's at 3.5, if you would have asked me on Monday, I'd say I'm looking towards Chargers. Now I would lean to Vikings. That 3 is so important, Ross, as you know, and that's why we love +3.5. So strong lean to the Vikings at the 3.5.
Yeah, so we will talk with Dr. Chao momentarily. Maybe it's because there's a chance guys like Joe Alt and Trey Pipkins might be able to play for the Chargers at tackle. Maybe that's part of why it went up. But I would have a strong lean to the Vikings getting the 3.5 now. The Chargers have not been very good. Vikings getting 3.5, probably a lot of Vikings fans there. I really like the Vikings getting that 3.5. Other line moves, one of which is the more money coming in on the Eagles. You know, the Eagles were laying 7. Now they're laying 7.5, Steve.
Yeah, and the feeling is that there's no way the Eagles are going to have back-to-back bad games with only one game in between against the Giants. Bad effort 2 weeks ago, and I think that's what's driving that line move. Motivated favorite.
Another one here. We had a teaser for the Eagles to -1. Another one, Atlanta is now -7.5 against the Miami Dolphins. We had Atlanta as a teaser leg -1. So that's 2 where the team we like, the money went, more money went in on them.
Yeah, we talked about that on an early week show. Hey, a -7 favorite's not a traditional Wong teaser, but you know what? If you can identify a -7 and tease it that's going to go up during the week, my goodness, that's a really solid play because now the Wong teaser is in play and people are laying 7.5 down to 1.5. And well, we got that extra half point. So all we need to do is have the team win.
Already got the extra half point on the Eagles, on the Falcons, because we were ahead of it, as we often are on this show. Other line moves, you talked about it. Money coming in on the Houston Texans, which I think is kind of strange, Steve. That one surprised me a little bit.
I think it's just about the Niners and their mental energy. They had that game against the Rams where they won as a big underdog, and then obviously they played really well against Atlanta. And did they just step up for a game without Warner? At some point, these injuries to the defense are going to catch up to them.
You would think. I guess people are betting on that at some point being now. Other line moves include Denver from -3 to -3.5. We talk about that a lot on this show. That's a big difference, Steve.
Yeah, and literally Denver's the better team, but they're not a lot better. Now that it's 3.5, I could only look Cowboys.
Yep, I would definitely lean to the Cowboys getting that 3.5 now. That's a couple 3.5s that popped up that we really liked. That reminds me, I did get an email, Steve. We might get to an email question at the end, but I did get an email from someone that said, "Why do you guys say you would take it if it was plus 3.5, but you don't take it at plus 3 when it would just be a push?"
Yeah, and so let's assume that 3 is the correct number. So if I bet plus 3, I'm going to go 45, 45, and 10. 10% of the time I'm going to push, and I'm paying big. So I lose big in expectation. If I bet plus 3.5, well, now I go 55 and 45 because I steal those 10 wins that I was previously pushing when I made 100 bets, 55 and 45, and I am styling Ross with the plus 3.5.
Love it. The other one is I got the Saints at plus 5.5. That's now down to plus 4.5. That's a full point of line value that I got on the New Orleans Saints as the underdogs. Kansas City's even more of a favorite now that it's official that Mariota will start. We move forward after Dr. Chao. We'll get into our props and our parlays. I got to be honest with you guys at this point. If you are not taking advantage of the guaranteed sick pick of the week, why not? If you remember, last week it was the Colts plus 2.5. That cashed. So their guaranteed spread picks are undefeated this year, which is crazy. 75% over the history over the last few years, but undefeated this year. Remember, new weekly sick pick customers, you get a refund if that pick loses. Go to sickscore.com. Obviously, the offer ends when the games kick off on Sunday morning, but sickscore.com is where it's at. That is the company that was started by our good friend Dr. David Chao, longtime team orthopedic surgeon for the San Diego Chargers, now the Los Angeles Chargers, who I will be seeing tonight. Dr. Chao, I'm in a hotel room. I've got the Vikings and the Chargers tonight for Westwood One Radio. Are you going to be there too?
I was coming for sure. It's my son's 13th birthday today. I said, let's go up to the game. Rodney Harrison's being inducted for the Hall of Fame at halftime for the Chargers. My guy, had I known you're there, I even pulled a string and got a little sideline pregame pass for him. And he doesn't want to miss school because it's special, like they do special things for the kids. So now I'm not going after all of that.
School's for fools. What a terrible... No, I'm just kidding. All right, so there's a lot to get into this week. I guess I am curious if you have any thoughts on tonight's game, because both these teams, the O-lines, have really, really been ravaged. Obviously, the Chargers have lost their running backs as well, but I'm watching the tape for this game, and they had Foster Sorrell at left tackle, Bobby Hart at right tackle. These are like their, sixth and seventh guys, maybe? Sixth and seventh guys. It's pretty wild. And now Alt and Pipkins both practice this week. They're questionable, but they have 10 days after this, Dr. Chao. What are you expecting from the Chargers in particular? Maybe both teams on the O-line.
Both teams are banged up. The Vikings are ahead of the Chargers in terms of getting healthy. Darisaw at left tackle is getting healthier every week coming off of his ACL. Brian O'Neill off his MCL has been playing already. Expect him to play. Joe Alt says he's going to play. Rashawn Slater's out. Joe Alt flipped over. You talked about the depth issues, right tackle, left tackle. Joe Alt says he's going to play. Don't doubt Joe Alt, but I think Joe Alt is going to play a little bit like Jake Matthews played for Atlanta against San Francisco. I'm sure you watched and paid attention. Both were high ankle sprains. Jake Matthews wanted to keep his starting streak intact, and he did. He wore that big old brace on his ankle. Really wasn't that effective. Joe Alt, is going to play, but the effectiveness is in question for him and the Chargers. And look, I've been getting a lot of grief online, and I don't worry about it. I'm good with it. I try and explain my position. that I keep saying JJ McCarthy is a hiding behind health situation. I'm not saying he's 100%. I'm not saying he doesn't have an injury. I'm saying his decision not to play is being made as a coach's decision, and it's a good decision. He's a young guy who's not 100% kind of thing. And proof positive, this is the second week in a row that Kevin O'Connell, who I love, has him as the emergency third quarterback, meaning what? Doctors have cleared him to go onto the field, which makes this a coaching decision and a smart one. But this is potentially, depending on how Carson plays, his final week starting, depending on how he plays tonight.
Well, that's so interesting. Well, you say depending on how he plays tonight. But you're right. I mean, if a guy has a broken leg or a torn ACL, they're not the emergency quarterback. They're not in uniform if they're not capable of going out there and playing. McCarthy, obviously, being in uniform, is capable of playing in the game. Otherwise, they wouldn't have him as the third emergency quarterback.
And no offense. Look, I'm not saying McCarthy's soft and doesn't want to play. I'm saying he does have some soreness in his ankle, and without full practice this week, with a short week, he's not good. It's a coaching decision, and it makes great sense. I'm not disparaging the Vikings head coach, who's a San Diego guy who I know well and love, okay? But it's just smart football is what it is.
Okay, so there's a couple quarterbacks I really need your opinion on. Let's start with Bryce Young with the ankle and what you're thinking there. It sounded like it might be Dalton. Then Bryce Young was out there yesterday, but he didn't practice. What are you thinking?
Bryce Young was out there without a boot on, but he didn't officially practice. By video, we always called it an E version high ankle sprain, and some media have called it a low high ankle sprain, which I get is very confusing. But it's not your classic syndesmotic high ankle sprain that will have guys out for a long period of time. It's more of a deltoid ankle sprain, which can recover more quickly. Bryce Young will not go on IR. He will be ready very shortly, probably not this week. Next week becomes 50-50 or a reasonable chance to return, but just not this week for Bryce Young.
What about Lamar Jackson? Didn't practice Monday, was kind of limited yesterday. This is a guy that really needs that hamstring, Dr. Chao.
Let me tell you, we do our own little coach speak index in terms of when coaches speak on injuries and we check their veracity. The hardest guy to read ever is John Harbaugh. I love Jim Harbaugh coaching tonight. I know him well. I don't know John at all, so this is not disparaging. He does a great job of misdirection in the media. Hard to read. I'm starting to think that, as you say, because Lamar is not 100%, I fully expected Lamar to go after the bye. I didn't think he'd go at all before the bye. I thought this was the target week. But now we have to watch it. It is not a guarantee that Lamar is ready to go with his hamstring, as you point out, especially with his game.
Wow, that would really be something. Any other quarterback situations that jump out to you? What about, I think we all thought Tyrod Taylor was going to start, but now they say he's day-to-day with a knee injury, so it might be Fields again.
Yeah, I think by coach's decision, the choice was to go with Justin Fields at this point in time, but they need the good week of practice. When it's a 50-50 situation where you're going to go, the quarterback that's healthier and practices all week gets the nod there, as opposed to when you have a dominant quarterback situation. We don't care if Josh Allen practices, he's going to play and be the starter, or Patrick Mahomes, or any number of quarterbacks around the league there. And, Brock Purdy still isn't ready with that turf toe, despite that week 3 false start in playing that game. And Michael Penix, that bone bruise has moved from foot, ankle. Now they're saying knee, and they have a capable backup. Don't sleep on Kirk Cousins if he plays. We have it well documented at Sports Injury Central that his late season swoon was directly tied to a hit right before halftime. And then his quarterback rating went in the tank the next 3.5 games before he was benched. So if it's Kirk Cousins, Don't sleep on him if Michael Penix can't go this week.
As a reminder, check him out on social media at ProFootballDoc. Check out at SixScore on social media, sixscore.com. You definitely want to get that free guaranteed sick pick of the week. Remember, it's free because you get a refund if the pick loses. Dr. Chao, you are the man. Thank you so much as always.
Thank you.
More great stuff right after this. It's getting colder out there, which means it's time to drink more beer. Specifically, Labatt or Labatt Blue Light. Absolutely delicious. Hopefully you guys saw on social media at Ross Tucker NFL, I did that taste test recently. Rewards.labattusa.com is where it's at. Buy beer, get gear. The mini fridge, amazing. The backpack cooler, life-changing. Rewards.labattusa.com. All right, Steve. On the props last week, you were all over it before the weather report came out on the under passing yards for Dylan Gabriel, Tua Tagovailoa. Those both came through. And how about your parlay? Your bad weather parlay. Gabriel under, Tua under, and the under on the 40.5 total. That cash, that win, a plus 460 parlay was awesome. That went better than your Thursday night parlay, which included Flacco going under 238.5 passing yards, which obviously did not happen.
Yeah, and I don't personally bet these parlays myself. And a lot of it is that when the sportsbook is calculating these same game parlays, they're hitting you for correlations, and it's very complicated. And there's people that do really, really well with it. And it's just, I don't have enough bandwidth to like price all of it. So I know you guys want that. I'm going to tell you what my gut says to play. And, you know, if you want to play parlays, you could do a lot worse than the advice I'll give you.
All right, well, let's get into it for this week then, Steve. You've been pretty darn good the last few weeks on your props. Are there any props or pro bets that you really like here a couple days later?
Yeah, so I'll in pre-production, I talked to Dr. Chao, and he was saying Dalton Schultz, Houston to go over. I don't have his number in front of me. I apologize for that. But whatever the prevalent number is for reception yards, I will take on National Tight End Day. I lean overs on tight ends anyways, so I'll take Schultz over for his reception yards.
Boy, that's a good point. Nico Collins had the concussion. Christian Kirk is injured as well. They might have to really feed Dalton Schultz. Any other bets that you want to throw in here later in the week or parlays, Steve?
Yeah, I got one parlay for you. I'll go ahead and go with that. You know, the NFC, I don't have the spread numbers. I'm sure they're very good. But the NFC is like plus 14 games, like 26-12 against the AFC. Now, is this meaningful? Is it meaningless? I'm not sure. But I said to myself, it can't be a negative that one conference is doing much better than the other. So I took a look. There's like 7 interconference games this week. And I just looked at the 3 that I'm leaning towards right now. And I said, let me throw in a fun 3-game parlay. And that would be Atlanta against Miami, Carolina against Buffalo, and Washington against Kansas City. So a 3-team NFC versus AFC parlay of the week.
Okay, so Steve looking to take advantage of the NFC's dominance over the AFC, taking Atlanta, Carolina, and Washington to give you guys a fun interconference parlay for those of you that like to play it. Anything else, Steve, that we should know about for this week, or should I ask you an email question?
Let's do 2 team totals. Let's go ahead. I think the Miami team has quit, and when a team quits, it's especially the defense. Maybe quit's the wrong word, but they're discouraged. I'm going to go Atlanta over 26.5, and we have reason to think if even if Cousins has to play, that's still going to be fine. So team total, Atlanta over 26.5, and I love what Drake May and New England's doing. The Cleveland defense is awesome at home. It has not been as good on the road. In fact, the Cleveland D has given up 30 points per game on average on the road the last 3 years. I'll take New England team total over 23.5.
So there's a couple interesting things there. yes, you're right. I thought what Dr. Chao said about Kirk Cousins was very interesting. Steve likes the Atlanta team total over 26.5, whether it's Cousins or Penix Jr. I think Penix Jr. will play. And not only that, about that New England with the Browns on the road, Vrabel coached for the Browns all year last year. So you would think personnel, schematically, that Mike Vrabel would have some type of an edge there, being in that building with the same coaching staff all year last year. So I like the New England team total over 23.5 as well. So fired up for this weekend. We will be back bright and early Tuesday morning. Remember, get the spreadsheet from Grades, patreon.com/RT Media. Save yourself a bunch of time. Time is money. Good luck, everybody. Hope you guys win some money this weekend.
Thanks for tuning in to Even Money. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.